We're here with the Naples Daily News Editorial Board, and joining us is Greg Dewitt, who's running for District 2 in the Bonita Springs City Council race. Thanks for joining us.
No problem, my pleasure.
Let's go ahead and start out, Greg. Talk a little bit about how long you've lived here in Bonita Springs.
I've been a resident of Bonita Springs since 1988, so almost 28 years now. Originally lived in Indiana, moved down here in 1984, went to high school, lived on Fort Myers Beach in 1984, went to high school, graduated in 88, and the cliche, married my high school sweetheart, and we moved to Bonita Springs.
What high school was that?
Cypress Lake High School up in South Fort Myers. It was actually the only one there, and kind of the weird thing is my wife's a twin, and in that same year, 1988, Estero High School opened up, and she had a choice whether to stay at Cypress or come to Estero High School. Her twin sister came to Estero, and she stayed at Cypress with me.
And for voters, tell them a little bit about your career.
My career is, actually I started out at Causeway Lumber here in Bonita Springs as a saw person. Got on in the fire department as a volunteer in 1988. Was hired full-time July of '89, and basically progressed up through the ranks from firefighter to driver engineer to lieutenant and deputy chief of EMS, and now my current position I've held for about two and a half years now as the assistant chief of the fire department, second in charge.
How would you juggle your time as far as your job with the fire department, with the rigors of being a Bonita Springs council member?
A lot of what I feel is a lot of the council is homework. I mean, they have 2 meetings a month. The meetings are the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday. The first Wednesday is at 5:30. With my job, my typical hours are 8 to 5 at the fire department. So those days, on that first Wednesday, I go home. Obviously, I live here in town. I live 2 minutes away from my office. Go home and change and go right to the city council. On the second Wednesday, they're at 9 a.m. And what I would do there is I've already talked to the fire chief, and I would just take my vacation time that morning. But like I said in the beginning, a lot of it's homework that I can do off duty. When at night, do the reading, do the research on what's coming up at the council meetings, and if I need to talk to anybody. Again, with my job the way it is, we get so much vacation time, and I spoke to my wife about it, and she has no problem with me taking a couple hours here, a couple hours there to use my vacation time for city council itself.
Is there a lot of interaction on the administrative or political level between the fire department and the city?
No, the fire department and the city itself are 2 separate taxing entities, so they really don't intertwine per se on an operational level. Now, we have partnered with the city for a few things, like some accomplishments that we've done is to streamline the permitting. We at the fire department do all of the plan review. The city itself collects all the impact fees, and then they issue us a check. We issue those types of plan reviews. So we've had that interaction, but as far as operational, where I would have to excuse myself on votes, I've never seen one come up yet. Even when it goes down to, let's go with any type of development, we would not have a direct impact on it. I mean, yeah, we may get some money from it, from impact fees or so on, but that's irrelevant on a vote, in my opinion, because it directly doesn't affect Greg Dewitt as the assistant chief. It would affect the whole entire fire department.
You mentioned the word development in there, and obviously that's a big issue in a lot of people's minds. Talk to us a little bit about what your view is of what the city's done so far in terms of annexations and controlling development, if you will.
I think the city's doing a good job right now. I've talked about it a little bit to certain people. I think the city itself right now is at crossroads. I think that it needs to really identify itself. It's 16 years old this year. It's like an adolescent. It needs to go to that next step to become an adult, just like kids do. And what I mean by that is that we have limited amount of space here in Bonita Springs. What development needs to come in or wants to come in has to be smart. We don't want to have a concrete jungle like a Miami, a Fort Lauderdale. But then again, we don't want to stop the growth and end up like a stagnant And I mean no disrespect, like a Bay Shore where they have one or two developments and then it's done. Because I think that our area is grown enough and it's surrounded by the North Naples, the Esteros, that we have to at least continue forward. But with continuing forward, it's got to be smart, it's got to be economical. And I think we need to identify ourselves. Are we going to be a community of young professionals and have something for them to do? Or are we going to become a city or a community of, and again, no disrespect, of assisted living type communities? And that's fine, whichever way we want to go. I think we need to identify ourselves and market ourselves as that. I know the Chamber has tried marketing Bonita's as bringing your young professionals here. We're open. We're trying to build these low rises, mid-rise buildings in a downtown redevelopment for the young professionals, the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers. But my thought is, and that's great, I'd love for that, but you've got to have something to keep them here. Cheap housing isn't going to be enough. You're going to have to either have some type of restaurant, some type of entertainment, at least be progressive in that way.
One of the places that there is land potentially to build on is out in the DRGR. How off limits is that as far as you're concerned?
Off limits. Do I want it to see built on? I don't want it to see built on as an urban sprawl, as in do we want to have 5 or 6 Worthington communities out there. But again, with my background being on the fire department, I'm a realist. I deal in facts and figures and not so much absolutes, but facts and figures. And what it is as a kid in '84, like I said, I moved here, and some people have heard me say this before. In '84, I used to go to Fort Lauderdale every summer to work with my uncle. He had a construction company over there. I saw what happened with Weston, Bonaventure, Pembroke Pines. They all encroached onto the Everglades, which is a national preserve. Nobody could stop it. It happened. I think realistically, I hope it doesn't happen, but I think realistically somebody will build out there. The gravel pit, the Bonita aggregate, is 234 acres owned by a company outside the United States. My opinion is they're not just going to sit and give that up. They're going to fight tooth and nail to get it developed. My thought is that it's just like at the fire department, is that you've got to be in the driver's seat. Otherwise, you're just riding and letting someone else dictate to you. My idea would be to get out there, get with the environmentalists, get with the utilities and the infrastructure, find out exactly what we need to keep that land pristine or livable. And then you come up with a plan. So that way, if you're too far one way or too far the other, you're going to get pushback. If you're somewhere in the middle where both sides can accept it, then I think that's where you can have a, dare I say it, a symbiotic relationship where you both can live with what's going on out there. Because when you start looking at it, you hear the rumors about, oh, it's going to flood. If you let development out there, it's going to flood. It's going to do this. Our drinking water, a lot of our drinking water doesn't come from that area. It comes from deeper than that. And I've talked to people at BSU to say the drinking water isn't actually from the DRGR. It's from the aquifers well below that. So whether you build out there or you build in the little pockets in Bonita, the people are still going to come, and the drinking water thing is not, in my opinion, is that critical. And this is coming from BSU, people I've talked to at BSU. The other thing is that, okay, if you build it up out there, it's going to flood everywhere else in Old Bonita or Lower Bonita. And I really don't believe that either, because if you look at it, the Worthingtons, the Hunters Ridges, we had 10 inches of rain in January, extra inches of rain. Worthington, Hunters Ridge, Bonita Bay, Pelican Lane, they didn't flood. Why? Because the engineers engineered that water to go where it's supposed to go. The natural way to do it, it finds the path of least resistance, and that may be a low area in my neighborhood, in District 2, on the sides of the road. So I think if we get out there and get ahead of the game, talk to the engineers, talk to the utilities, that way it's engineered correctly. It's just not haphazard.
Does Bonita Springs need a high school?
Yes, I think it does. I really believe it does. I've lived here, like I said, 28 years now. I think it needs a high school. I think it deserves a high school. It's got, 3 5 elementary schools, a middle school, a charter school that goes all the way up to 8th grade. From the statistics I read, and this comes from the school board, that there's 1,600 students in Bonita Springs, so it needs a high school.
Any thoughts on where it's best located?
I've got 3 thoughts on where it's best located. First, it goes back to one of my original things. We need, as a city, to define what we want out of a high school. If we want a high school that produces the best kids, and that's it, the most well-educated, best kids, and that's it, then I think that the Imperial site is okay, is good. If the city and the Chamber of Commerce come together and say there's going to be, we foresee some type of economic benefit from this high school, then I think that the Bonita Beach Road and Bonita Grand site's better because it has more room. The Imperial site is landlocked. To the south you have Hawthorne. To the north you have the Cadera and Bonita Lakes. And to the east you have I-75. So there's no room. It's landlocked. Whereas the Bonita Grand site at Bonita Beach Road and Bonita Grand, you have commercial, the original 43 acres or 40 plus acres that they originally were going to put in front of Hunter's Ridge. You have that to be developed. To the east of that, you have 2.5 to 5 acres that can be developed. So there's room for any type of economics growth that would come from the high school. My third one, not a popular one, but it kind of leads credence to the school board. The school board's seen that we needed a high school 12 years ago. In talking to Gary Price and Ben Nelson, the city fathers at the time said, why don't you buy that land on Bonita Grand, at the end of Bonita Grand by Tower Road? My somewhat opinion is that they did their due diligence, they bought that land, and I think that either they should try and negotiate with the land to the south of there and see if they can get another 20 acres, and at that point, put it in the zoning and the city's thing. You say you want a high school. The community says they want a high school. We bought land 15 years ago, let's say. Here's our plan. Deny us. And my other thought is, kind of going to the DRGR, I mean, this is private property. If the city wants to deny them, and they really do not want anybody to build out east of town, then I think that the school board should say, all right, if you deny us this high school on the land that we bought 12 to 15 years ago, then you should buy it from us. And that way they could take that money to offset the development costs, whether it's the Bonita Grand site and Bonita Beach Road or the Imperial site. So they can use that money, because I know money's a big deal right now. They purchased that land. I don't know what they purchased it for back then, but it would help offset what they're going to use for the high school now.
So theoretically, you could be on a council that would be asked to deny that school site out there. Would you vote to deny it?
Nope.
Okay.
I think that they did their due diligence. I think if you really look at an overview of Bonita Springs, they keep talking about the high school should be in the center of Bonita, should be in the center of Bonita. That almost is in the center of Bonita, because if you think about what's going on east of town, where Bonita Grand is and to where Bonita National is at right now, it's about 4.5 to 5 miles. Then if you go from I-75 to the beach, is 5 miles. So it's almost right in the middle now. Yeah, it's not developed yet and may never be developed, but at least it's out there. And realistically, the 2 sites that they've, let's say, come out and said about, Hunter's Ridge fought against it and didn't want it. Now we have the Hawthorne community fighting against it. Where they would put it, no one's going to really fight about it, for one. And I kind of think back to Estero High School, and this may be a negative on my side, but when Estero High School was built in 1988, there was nothing there. Everything else built around it. So the negative connotation that a high school is all bad, there's a reason why the Brooks built to the south. There's a reason why Colonial Lakes or Colonial Oaks built to the east of it. I mean, it's not a detriment to the community like some people would have you believe.
The project underway on Old 41 Road to redo the downtown, what's your thoughts about that project as the council has it envisioned?
I think it's good. I hope the business side of it comes along. I know that the thought is to rebuild it and do retail on the bottom with residential on top of the businesses. I think it's one of those things, I don't know which one's going to come first. I would like to see the businesses come first and then draw in the people. But I don't know if there are businesses out there willing to take that risk before the people are there, the young professionals, as we would call them. I like the idea of it being a destination to where you want to go down there, where you need to go down there instead of a cut through, which is what it is now. I think had that been done in the past, there may have been some businesses that would have made it, i.e. the Dixie Moon or the Whistle Stop, as it used to be called. And I think it leads to the charm of Bonita Springs. You have the Shangri-La, you have things like that down there. Benson's has been down there for a long time. It lends to the history of Bonita Springs.
What about the roundabouts on the street there? Are you comfortable with those?
I don't know what to think about the roundabouts. I'm comfortable with them because I've used the one at Estero a lot, taking my daughter to school and my son to school. They both graduated, or my daughter's in Estero and my son graduated, so I'm used to them. I think it's going to take some time. Statistically, they say they're traffic calming, so traffic will be better. Professionally, as a fire department, we've talked to them quite a bit about it, about response times, and they've made them so we can drive over them or drive around them or whatever, so it's not going to affect anything of that nature. But I hope it does what it says it's going to do. Again, going back down to it, they're trying to make it a destination, so you're not going to jump off of onto Old 41 at south of town and then jump back onto New 41 north of town to avoid Bonita Beach Road. I mean, you're going to want to go down there for the shops, for the businesses, for the library that's going to be there. So it's going to be a destination rather than a cut through.
You sort of mentioned the traffic getting around. What are some of the top priorities as far as you can see it for the city to address the roads and
I think they need to have a couple more east-west thoroughfares. I mean, they've done a pretty good job with Imperial Street opening it up. They've done a good job with US 41 and beautifying, but I think we need more east-west, because right now you have Bonita Beach Road going to Imperial, you have East Terry going to Imperial. That's about it. The next one that makes Imperial is Coconut Road. So it would be nice to have something else that goes east-west to alleviate some of that traffic. I think if we had that and you knew how to cut through different areas, it would alleviate some of the traffic on US 41. The big one that concerns me is the Hickory Boulevard. And the city itself had the Bonita Beach Road visioning. I think signage would help, because if you're down visiting Hickory Boulevard or Bonita Beach or one of the access, or even going out to Lover's Key State Park, if you're staying down in Naples, you don't know that Vanderbilt Beach Road goes south quite a ways. If they would put some signage up there to say, hey, and that way they wouldn't have to go or think they have to go all the way up to US 41 to make that right. On a larger scale, to alleviate the Bonita Beach Road traffic or the Hickory Boulevard traffic, and it's probably not very popular, but somewhere in the future they should think about doing something, another road on to Fort Myers Beach. Because right now there's only one way down that way. If you want to go see Lover's Key State Park, you either got to go in off of Summerlin Road or off of Bonita Beach Road to get to that location. And from the Parks Department, they see about 1 million people a year. So the math itself is staggering.
Back to the east-west thoroughfare idea.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a route that exists that could be widened and extended, or does it have to be a whole new?
The problem is that anywhere you talk about through neighborhoods, strike lane punching through. I know the people, the residents in San Carlos Estates aren't happy with that, wouldn't like that, because they feel, and it is a private road, so the city would either have to bring it up to city standards and purchase it and maintain it the whole time. They've done a pretty good job with Shangri-La, popping through there, but again, those are residential streets. I don't know if there is anywhere else where you could pop through from an old 41 out to US 41. The only other one that I've even heard about is Pennsylvania. Instead of it making a turn out of Royal, to go across there and pop it out right around the ramp, the Imperial Boat Ramp, Imperial River Boat Ramp. That may work somewhat. Again, that's going through neighborhoods, so that the traffic flow would have to be looked at. The only other one that I know that they've talked about, and that's more of a north-south one, is when Logan Boulevard comes through in 2020. But that's, to me, that's just going to add more traffic onto Bonita Beach Road.
Collier County has in the past pushed, and the Lee MPO has said no as far as extending 951. There's another north-south road. Is that something you think the city should take a look at?
I think to take a look at it, I think that's far off, only because if you look at a map right now, the 951 is more of a south, or more of the east side of the road. I know right now, if you look at Logan Boulevard and you look at an aerial photo of it, it's almost through. We've talked to people down in Collier County. By 2020, they're going to say it's popping through. In some research I've done here lately, just on land east of town, the county has it slated right there where it's coming out between Palmyra and Village Walk. They have the land across the street already bought, budgeted, earmarked. If you look at it, look at county-owned land, it even says 951 extension. I don't think it's going to be a 951. I think it's more of a Logan Boulevard. Now, whether they call where Logan comes through 951 or not, but there is going to be a corridor to pop through there by 2020, from what my understanding is.
One of the things that has come up in the past is an overpass at Bonita Beach Road and 41. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't agree with it at all. I think that, again, growing up here, I think an overpass, or a flyover as you call it, would be, in my opinion, a kiss of death to the businesses around there. And I just go back to, again, history. For years and years and years, when I was going to high school or whatever, Colonial Boulevard had Sam Galloway Ford. It was there forever. It was a staple. Been here since 1954, I think their commercial says. The point being is, as soon as they put in that Colonial overpass, it was done. It moved. Had to move to Boy Scout. And to me, if a large, well-established business couldn't make it because of a flyover, what's it going to do to the little mom and pop businesses on each side of that? So I am in no favor. I'm in no way in any favor of a flyover or any type of overpass right there. Again, the way to alleviate that traffic may not be the popular one, but there's got to be another way to get off the beach or to get off that Hickory Boulevard. If they could go to, you know, where the Carl Johnson boat ramp is, and there was a 3-mile long bridge that connects to Coconut Road, that would be a third way to get on and off. I think would alleviate some of that traffic that's coming off the beach itself. Because that's the concern, is then during a hurricane or any type of event, the evacuation from the beach and from Hickory Boulevard and all the people in Little Hickory, Bonita Shores, and anybody west of 41.
Is there room for affordable housing in Bonita Springs' future?
Oh, I'm sorry.
For affordable housing?
Affordable housing in what? In what incidents?
Like, for instance, the downtown district, as it takes shape,
Mm-hmm.
it would be a destination. I can see, you know, be an upscale possibly, but where do the you know, the young professionals, the firefighters starting out, you'd like to for them to live in town, I suppose. Where in town might that be? I
think in that downtown redevelopment area. They've already they've talked about that, and that's what they want to do, put in, like, retail on the bottom in 2 to 3 stories and have those be affordable $150,000, $200,000 homes. From what I also understand is at the corner of Dean Street and Old 41, they've already okayed the zoning for some housing to go in there. Again, 3 and 4 story apartment buildings. I think they should be, instead of rentals, I think they should be owners. Just because if you own something, you take pride in it, you're going to keep it up, rather than, hey, I'm making money for some other guy and you may not care that much about it. So yeah, I think there is room for it. I think in the downtown area it'd be a place to start, and it may go into, there's places like, let's use across the street from the YMCA, there's 20 acres there. It used to be Jones's Mobile Village. I mean, it used to be a trailer park. So I mean, somebody could build out that way. So there is room for it. I think we should have it. Again, going back to, we're at the adolescent stage, 16 years old as a city. What do we want to be known as? Do we want to draw on young professionals, or are we going to be a retirement, assisted living community? But I think there's room for it. And I think that whichever way we go, I think if there are young professionals here, along with the retirement community, I think we all can coexist.
We about hit our time here, Greg. Is there anything else that's important to your campaign that we haven't covered here that you want to get out there?
Basically, I've been here, I'm staying here. I've raised my son, who has now moved back, graduated from Florida State, moved back with his wife and 2 kids. They're living in Bonita Springs. They have 2 children, so basically 3 generations of DeWitts, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, is living in Bonita Springs. The other thing is I'm qualified for the job. I've been dealing with budgets for the last 20 years of my career at the fire department. I was the union president for 13 years dealing with budgets. The last 3.5 years I've been in management side dealing with the budgets. I'm certified district manager from Florida State University. So I feel that I'm qualified for the job. And again, my best quality is I've been here. I've seen Bonita go through a lot. I've been in Bonita Springs for 28 years. I've seen it when it wasn't a city. I've seen it when we became a city. And I want to follow through and continue with the growth that's going now, but it's got to be smart growth.
That's it. Good. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
No problem.